Now, people that know him probably know him as the guy that never sleeps, is everywhere all at once, and has an unrelenting energy and, of course, work ethic.
I've been through all sorts of different up and down cycles, but ultimately positivity reigns supreme, and I think we're all in a position to be the same if given the right support network and the right mental framework. I guess I'm somewhat of an outlier of a DJ where, a lot of DJs, or most of them are, it's nightlife, it's party life. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy a tequila, but I've also got a strong health and fitness angle to my life. I'm getting ready for my third bodybuilding show, and I don't know how many DJs have actually done that. I don't know. The hardest man working, having the most fun. It's that simple. It's that simple. Be the one working the hardest, having the most fun.
Welcome to Abnormal, the podcast for normal people who want to do abnormal things. Today, I'm joined by Ben Cullen, otherwise known as Benny Cee, international DJ, producer, and entrepreneur from Wales, currently lighting it up in Hong Kong. Now, people that know him probably know him as the guy that never sleeps, is everywhere all at once, and has an unrelenting energy and, of course, work ethic. Benny Cee, welcome to Abnormal.
Quite the intro. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, the sleep, I'm working on that so hard right now, but it's interesting you brought that up. But yes, thank you for my intro, and happy to be here, bro.
I had to mention it because it's true. For guys that do know you, or people that do know you, it is like you just seem to be everywhere all at once, doing everything at the same time, never saying no. But whenever I see you or work with you, it's like, damn, how's this guy got this much energy? Every time we work together, I see you, I come back and I'm like, I speak to my wife and I'm like, fuck, Flora, like, that was a real good time. Our energy, it needs to go up another level after spending some time with Benny.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's a big part of my personality, and hopefully my effect on other people as well. So it's very kind of you to say that.
Well, we can get more into that later because there's many effects that you've had on me and I'm sure many other people. But for the listeners, Benny, that don't know you, what's one thing that they should know about you that gives them the best context for this conversation moving forward?
I think that I'm a big dreamer, and I believe we are really capable if we put ourselves in the right position, and I've been through all sorts of different up and down cycles, but ultimately positivity reigns supreme, and I think we're all in a position to be the same if given the right support network and the right mental framework. And yeah, I've done a lot of things, and I'd like to do significantly more, and maybe we'll leave it at that.
Let's start with the present then, and where we currently are now. What is that big thing for you then? What's going on right now in your life that you're working on that people should know about, or what's going on right now?
Yeah, good question. So I guess, I've slowly built a personal brand and profile as a DJ and MC, and I spend time working on TV and radio, and that's, I guess, Ben Cullen, and then my artist name is Benny Cee. But alongside that, I've been running two businesses, one for 8.5 years and one for I think 7 years. And so my day-to-day life is still very involved in the one business, which is essentially a rugby coaching franchise here in Hong Kong. And we have a big team, and we operate at 40 locations, and it's quite a heavy operation. And at the start of this year, I tried to take a step back a little bit and really focus on making music, producing. And last year I spent a lot of time DJing. I was really active locally, and I was kindly awarded Hong Kong DJ of the Year, and then I tried to build on that. But the reality is, when you have a business like I do, or at least the position I left it in, you actually can't step back unless you have processes. And, our team is great, but they need to be given the correct tools. So as of right now, I've kind of parked some of that to focus on getting the business in the right place. And then, in addition to that, I've, like you as well, I've got a great opportunity with Hyrox, and kind of traveling the world MCing there. So music production right now is just on a little bit of back foot. I'm still DJing a little bit, but it's rugby tots operations to get in a better position, and my role as MC within Hyrox.
And everything going well then, Benny, what is the dream? What's the 5-year dream? What's the 10-year dream? What's your one thing? What's your North Star you're working towards?
Yeah, so I mean, between now and I guess mid 2026, my goal is to have kind of fully removed myself from the business, so I can purely be Benny Cee. And then we have Hyroxes all over the world, and that's a great way for me to travel. And alongside that, I would love to DJ in these places and produce music and then play at the biggest stages in the world. So that's the plan. And I really enjoy the Hyrox stuff. I guess I'm somewhat of an outlier of a DJ where, you know, a lot of DJs, or most of them are, you know, it's nightlife, it's party life. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy a tequila, but I've also got a strong health and fitness angle to my life. I'm getting ready for my third bodybuilding show, and I don't know how many DJs have actually done that. I don't know. So the merge between MC/DJ for Hyrox and being a DJ and producer, and to merge that together to go as high as I can within the industry is the North Star, I guess. And that's 5 years for sure. And it doesn't mean I'd stop after 10, but I really enjoy media. You know, we've both spent time working for RTHK. I love radio. I love TV, doing things like this. And I'd like to build a media company. And the world is changing quickly now, and media's changing perhaps faster. Well, now there's AI, maybe not the fastest, but either way, the landscape of media is changing, and I'd also like to have some of that. I don't just want to be me. I'd like to still operate businesses down the line. But in the short term, meaning 5 years, focus on me, Benny Cee.
I love that, man. And it's true when you say you're quite uniquely positioned. I completely agree with you, because the business side is one thing, but then you're doing this music and producing, and then the MCing stuff with Hyrox and other events as well. But when I MC with you at Hyrox, it's crazy, right? Because we were talking just before we started this. I've just come back from India, and as you can probably hear, I'm fucking ill right now. And because it's just absolutely killed me. When we MC together, you do your shift MCing on the mic, like crazy, jumping around, partying. And then to take a break, you would then jump on the decks and do a set on the decks. And I'm like, and I'm like in the back office, sleeping, like dying, like resting my voice, like, oh my, calling my wife, like, I can't do this anymore. This is so hard. And then I come out and you're just still bopping around on the deck still, and then ready to go back on the mic. Mate, yeah. It's relentless.
Yeah, I don't know. I think between, you know, and I've found my groove with my style with the Hyrox stuff now. Like I'm a hopefully a fun person. I like a lot of banter. So like I'm trying to just have fun with the crowd more than, you know, perhaps commentating and trying to like find the edge between the two. And, you know, music is my passion. So if I get to like jump on the decks, then sign me up. And, you know, if I go in between the two, then it's a great time. And, you know, I think part of the reason I've been asked to do more and more is just because I try to give so much energy to the people, to the venue, to the audience, whatever you want to call it, like the whole atmosphere. And I will say some of the most tired days of my life have absolutely been after Hyrox. And my first one in Singapore, for 2 days after it, which was also after a week of, I went from Ibiza, DJing. I DJed 4 times in Ibiza, my first time I'd ever DJed there. Went from 4 times to Singapore to then do a 2-day Hyrox in the stadium. And they were like 16, 18-hour days. And then the Monday and Tuesday, I chose to stay in Singapore and like be a tourist. I did not get out of bed both days until 4 p.m. And that is 100% the most tired I've ever been in my life. Nothing has come close to that. So it's not like the battery doesn't ever, you know, reduce. It stays there at Hyrox, and then it comes down the days after.
A hard come down after those
can be, honestly,
events.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. Like you're doing so much, and it's honestly so impressive. Just want to touch on the Hyrox thing still. Now, everything that we mentioned, and you know, knowing you for a few years now, what you're working towards in terms of the music producing, the media company, obviously your 2 businesses at the moment. Did you ever see something like Hyrox coming into your life, like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago? Because this is now, it seems to be quite a big part of your life. Like you're traveling every other weekend to these events. And did you anticipate something like this coming in as another pillar in your work life?
No, I definitely didn't. And to like give a really short, you know, I know you know this story, but I'll give the context for the listeners. Like the reality of how all of this even happened is kind of crazy, which was during COVID. our business is, rugby coaching, and it's an in-person service. That got cut out, and we just decided the one day that the three of us, the team was tiny then. It was me, my brother, and a guy called Hugh. There was three of us Welsh lads, and we ended up getting coined the Welsh Wiggles for a while. And we just decided to start this kids TV show on Facebook Live. There was a lady watching, Alison, who now you have a great relationship with as well. Alison works in media for RTHK and has worked in media all her life. She saw me presenting this kids TV show, then invited me for coffee, which just also happened to be my 30th birthday. And I was like, why does she want a coffee with me? And her child was attending my classes on Saturdays pre-COVID. Anyway, and then she invited me to work on the radio. And then that was great. I was kind of head of show Sports Fix like you are now. And then that led to me kind of creating content and putting stuff on LinkedIn. It led to MCing and dinners and things. And then Hyrox came to town, and we were the first, Hong Kong being the first place in Asia to get it. And then they were asking around about who should be the MC. And I guess because I'd been posting about it, and, my name got brought up a few times, and, the rest is history. But absolutely not at all did I expect ever for those things to happen. But I will also say, and this is not to sound in any shape or form arrogant or overconfident or anything like that, I always thought I was capable. I did not think that I could not do that. And, I'd thought about it before, and that would be really cool, but what is the avenue? I used to play rugby and had moved around semi-professionally, not good enough to make it to the top. But I always knew I was capable and knew how to work hard and things like that. So whilst I didn't expect it, I always thought I was capable of it. Like I said at the start, we all are. It's it's a mentality thing.
Yeah, for sure. And but when you're talking about your capabilities and all this sort of stuff, did you ever think though that this would take you to flying around the world and doing this crazy stuff that you're currently doing now? Maybe if you could give the listeners just a quick summary of some of the cities and countries that you've been to or expecting to go to.
My goodness. I mean, yeah, we've been really lucky here in Hong Kong that the team for APAC, the team that manages APAC, is based here in Hong Kong. So I've got to, where have we been? South Korea, Thailand, Taiwan, Australia. I've been to, done it in Europe, in Wales, in Cardiff, in London, in Nice. And, the plan will be to crack the States as well. There's opportunities there. So, I've been to India. I've done every one in Asia. I've not been to New Zealand yet. But I've pretty much done every one in APAC. And yeah, there's obviously more on the horizon. I'm not sure what has been announced. We recently did.
Yeah, it's always hard to know which ones are live yet or not.
Yeah, there are more coming. We recently did Japan, and I've been to mainland China as well, Shanghai, Beijing. It's I don't know, it's crazy. I had thought about what it would be like to travel and work before, because, you see things on the internet or people talk about traveling for work. And I'd always, again, same thing. I'd always thought about that being really cool. And it's been nothing short of life-changing, to be honest. And then you get to experience all these cultures, and, we're not getting rich from it, but you're getting paid to go. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of crazy that you get these opportunities to go do this crazy sport that they've invented. I get to dictate the energy and have the best time ever. And you're like, oh yeah, that was, you got paid to do that. And that's just such a privilege. And, as you know, I'm always so thankful and grateful, and thank everybody every single time we get an opportunity, no matter how normal it becomes or whatever. I make a point of telling them how thankful and grateful I am, because it's actually a joke. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's quite, when I listen to your goals in life and what you're working on, and the health and fitness, the bodybuilding, but also the businesses in Hong Kong. But then we talk about the other side of your life where you're DJing, producing all around the world, MCing all around the world. To me, it can come across as quite contradictory, because on one hand, you're living this jet setter lifestyle, trying to live and work from anywhere around the world. And the other hand, you've got these two businesses in Hong Kong, plus the health and fitness, which I know personally is extremely routine focused, and it's just easier when you have your systems in place and you know which bed you're sleeping in, what time you're waking up, your food prep. So for you, how have you found balancing those kind of two aspects of your life, or do you even see it as two different parts of your life?
That second part's a really good question. The first part is no, it is something I'm really, really working on. And, without turning this into anything sort of negative, the first 6 months of 2026, is that where we are? No, we're
We're
2025. What am I talking
2025.
about? My God, ignore that part.
You're just so growth
Yeah,
mindset,
that's
You're
okay.
always thinking
I'm
ahead.
already next year. The first 6 months of this year, I've never traveled more. I went to 16 cities in the first 6 months to either work or DJ, which sounds like the most amazing life, and it is. But at the same time, I stopped doing things that made me tick because I'm also quite routine focused, and the business was. I don't know if the business was hard to manage. I was just managing it less because I was trying to do all these other things. And then, cracks started to appear and things like that. So to be transparent, it's still something I'm learning. I've got a really heavy travel period coming up for the rest of the year. And I'm currently 7 weeks sober, which is the longest streak I've put together for a while. And that is one thing that, you have to, you literally can't do everything you just said and drink and party and whatever. And I kind of got caught up a little bit in that. So I'm now I think in the best place I've been for some time to now manage the two things. And it's not two, but yes. And the second part of your question is I've never thought about whether I see them as two lives, but they definitely are two lives. I am a different person in the office and with the team to what I am. I don't show any of my business stuff online. My Instagram profile, if we just talk about that, is actually purely Hyrox and DJ focused. So they definitely are two lives. But to me, I guess it all merges. But they are definitely two lives.
Have you had any big sacrifices that you've made apart from the alcohol that we'll discuss a bit later, but anything that you've kind of sacrificed living this life that you're living that you not regret, but that you sometimes think about?
Jesus. Wasn't expecting that. It's a good question again. I think, I'm a, you know me, I'm like an all-in person. So I guess right now in the last 7 to 8 weeks, I've been back in Hong Kong. I've done almost zero socializing, and that's the sacrifice I've made recently. But my friends are my friends, and if they're not, then if they drift on after that, then they're not my friends. But I definitely have spent an awful lot of time working, and it doesn't mean you're always actually making progress. I spent a lot of time. It's all part of your journey, right? I know I've also wasted a lot of time working because I thought I was working, but I wasn't. I just was being busy when perhaps resting or going to see my friends or, whatever, maybe letting my hair down occasionally would have been better for me. I've also, to go back to the sleep thing, I definitely should have slept more than I have over the years, but I'm getting much better at that. I don't know if I don't know if it's a funny word. Like, I don't know if it's both sacrifice and invest. I've spent so much money on myself and doing things and trying to upgrade my life that if you're like, this guy's 35, and if we were purely to look at how much money I have in the bank, you'd be like, I probably should have more in there. But I know how much money I've spent on, upgrading or trying to invest in myself versus putting that money into, an investment account. And I'm not that I'm that money driven, and I'm sure it's all going to come down the line. And I'm more driven by my story and my ambition and my dreams than money. It's just not how I'm wired. So I guess I've also sacrificed or invested, whatever way you see it, a lot of money to kind of put me where I am as well, whether that be through music production and DJing equipment. And, I have a business coach, which has quite frankly transformed my life. He costs me a lot of money. I've spent a fortune on working with him in the last 2 years. But again, it's like an investment and sacrifice.
So I was going to ask, what types of investments have you made? But you mentioned a few there. Let's talk about your business coach. How long have you had this coach for?
We are 2 years in November.
And what inspired that first session?
So I came to Soho House to work one Sunday, and I saw a good friend who's no longer living here in Hong Kong. And we sat there, and I said hello to him, and we spoke for 5 hours, just straight up chatted for 5 hours about his life and his new business coach and what he was doing. And I was just so enthralled by seeing this transformation in my friend. And I was like, do you know what? I need something like that. I'm like a little bit stuck right now. And I want some, it's hard. It's also hard being your own boss and you've got a team. Like you have to drive everything and nobody's driving you. You have to do that yourself. And anyway, so we got on the call and I was like, this guy is, and he's like, I'm not taking you on unless you're trying to do anything big. And he's Dutch and he couldn't be any more straight. And yeah, that was the what inspired it. And we're together 2 years in November. Yeah.
And what's the cadence of meetings? Do you guys like meet every week?
Yeah, we speak every we've actually just changed it to a Tuesday, but we were speaking every Monday, and we use even in the time I've been working with him, his coaching has also progressed. He himself is like he's a shareholder and chairman on like so many businesses and has got employees over the world. And somebody asked him to mentor them one day, and he's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not into it. Anyway, he decided to and got so much joy from it. He was like, actually, maybe I do want to do this. So he does this now on top of, his commitments as business owners and chairman and whatever else he does. And he's just, every single week we come in and he asks hard questions. He asks straight questions. We also use this tracker now, which is essentially like a template that I fill in every week on what you said you were going to do. And, there's just a little bit more accountability to it than kind of just the notes we were doing before. We now have like quite a structured system. We've added in health and fitness things like, how many hours have I trained? How close to 100% was I? And that takes probably an hour to fill in each week. And then we have an hour call. We speak almost daily, to be honest, not on the phone, but voice notes and texts. And he's opened up so many parts of my mind that, I didn't know were there. And he's
like what?
The example I've used a few times for him is like, I don't really need to go through the history of the 2 years, but at one point I was working on a children's tech fitness business. That's what I wanted to do because I have this idea which has been parked, and it's really is a big idea. And we were talking about life expectancy, and Dana White, the UFC president, I guess it's 2 years ago, went through this health transformation where some guy had predicted that Dana White was actually only going to live for 5 more years or something like that. So then Dana White goes on this huge transformation. That's the context of the story. Then we started speaking about life expectancy. And he said to me, how long do you want to live for? And I was like, right. And he's like, no, seriously, how long do you want to live for? And I thought about it. So at the time, I guess I was 33. So in my head, I'm like, well, I've just gone past 30. So if I say 120, that means I've only lived a quarter and I've got 3/4 left. That sounds good. So I was like, 120. And he's like, cool. Why didn't you say 500? And I was like, well, that doesn't, 500 is extreme and whatnot. And the point he was making was that I anchored my thought to something that had already been done or is currently possible. And the message was, don't anchor your thoughts to something that is currently possible or whatnot. And if something has already been done, that means you can do it because it's been done. And if it's not been done, what is the route to make it happen? And that's just one example of kind of him opening up my mind to make things happen. And even from like a business standpoint, he always talks about like looking for trapdoors and it's not about shortcuts. It's about being clever. And it's like, how can you do something to, whether it be 10x or be clever? And we're currently working on a really interesting referral program for our business, which is actually borderline insane. We've kind of copied it from the start of the PayPal days, and we launched that in 10 days from now. And that came from him kind of pushing me on a creative session. We walk once a month. So most of them are on similar to this on laptops. And we walk once a month. And on this walk, we kind of just, shoot ideas and whatnot. So it came off the back of one of them. And the idea is actually so ridiculous. And we'll see if what comes of it. So that's what I mean when he's like opened up my mind. And I've always thought I was, like I said at the start, like capable and a big dreamer and stuff. And he is the only person in my life that's ever gone, that's not big enough. Everyone else is like, oh, that's that's cool and that's impressive or whatever. And he's the only person ever that's gone, that's not enough. You can do more. And then you hear somebody say this, and then they feed you with things to do and read case studies and all these things. And then he's had profound impact, and he's not an easy taskmaster. His favorite thing to do is to send me a snail emoji, saying I'm moving too slowly. And he's Dutch, and he says, chop, chop, Cullen. That's his thing. So he's had a huge impact on my life.
That's awesome. What a great relationship it sounds like you guys have got. Have you got any examples of the trapdoors, but in your like personal life? In terms of, when I say personal life, I mean DJing, producing.
Yeah, I guess one which I think I've shared with you, but I've actually never said this publicly, but I feel like now is a good time to say it. You know, I'm in this crossover link between music, fitness, DJing and whatnot. And at Hyrox, music is a huge part of the event. I have a theory that 100% of the people that take part in Hyrox listen to music. I don't believe people are training in silence, or they definitely don't train in silence all the time. Like, I just don't believe that's a thing. So that means they are looking for music to listen to. So I'm currently trying to be the curator for the Hyrox playlist for the house music, because that's the genre I play. And the long-term play with that is that, you know, when I release my music goes into this playlist, and the people of Hyrox will get to listen to my music, and I'm merging the two worlds there. So, you know, the one world is being a curator, and the other one is being a producer. The producing side is I'm still very early days. I do actually have my first record coming out. I'll receive my contract this week, which is this week or next week, which is very exciting.
Let's go.
And I guess that's a trapdoor in my personal. Is that personal? I guess so. It's separate to the business, I guess. And that's felt like a trapdoor that he influenced me, because he was like, "How do you merge the two?" And I'm like, "Well, I already have built a playlist on Spotify that people listen to, and I update weekly. So I'm already doing it. So why not do it on behalf of Hyrox, in which 1.4 million people are expected to compete this season?" And like, well, cool. Maybe that Spotify playlist can get 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 likes. That's a big playlist. And what if your own song is in the playlist because you're the curator? You're allowed to do that. And then my music gets listened and shared to and enjoyed. And then, you know, that kind of will hopefully grow my profile, not only as a curator, but also a producer and DJ. So that feels like a significant trapdoor.
I love that. That's a very smart trapdoor. Now I'm interested, because your coach is very much like a business coach, it sounds like, but also a bit of accountability as well. How much help can he actually give you on your DJing and producing side versus what he was able to give you and is currently still able to give you on your business coaching?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Again, like I didn't know that, but for example, like he's really, really structured, and you know, he is data, he's numbers, he's output. It's like output. How do you do more by doing, not by doing less, by being, you know, it's not as simple as work smarter, not harder, but kind of. And for example, when I started my production journey, he was like, "I want you to DM 50 DJs and ask them." He's like, "Come up with 5 questions and DM them different questions. What are the biggest questions you have right now? Because you're a beginner." And I was like, "Cool, all right." So I didn't DM 50 off the bat, because I knew that I would learn along the way. But I DM'd 50 and I got like 20 responses, and I did not expect. I'm not like messaging local DJs. I'm messaging like the biggest DJs in the world. And I got 20 to 25 responses out of 50. And that was wild. And like, it's like you already know the answers anyway. None of them gave me any secret. Maybe there was a few like, be like, "Oh, you should do this and don't do that." But like, it's always like, it's reps, it's hours, it's consistency, and it's don't stop. Like, they gave me the answers I already knew anyway. Of course, there's a million ways you could learn how to make a song, but you know, it still comes down to hours, consistency, reps. And then the other one as well was then, again, being like a slightly different one. He was like, "Cool, you need to change your LinkedIn profile," which I did. And I've taken most of my, you know, from your headline and your title and things like that, I've almost completely changed that. And it now says DJ and producer based in Hong Kong. And he was like, "Connect with 30 record label executives on LinkedIn and see what's going on in the industry." So I did. I DM'd all 30 of them, and none of them came back to me, which is really interesting. I got 0 responses on LinkedIn, and I got, as I said, 20 to 25 on Instagram. And if I was to have guessed and hypothesized before I did that, it would have been the other way around. And like DJs would have been like, whatever. And the executives would be like, hey, maybe you should do this. I don't know. So to answer your question, he has made me do things like that. What does your website look like? What are the ways you can start to grow fans? And he's like, again, this is where he's like, in some ways naive, but it's really cool. He's like, can you take like, again, this is just him being wild. He's like, can you take polls at your gigs on how much somebody enjoyed it? He's the example of like an airport toilet. This, like, you come out, there's like 3 buttons. It's like sad, okay, good. He's like, how do you come up with a version for that for your DJ gigs? And I'm like, I don't know, but like that's what he is. He's like, and he uses this thing as well called like it's called the Net Promoter Score. So like, what do people rate you out of 10 right now? And who is the audience? If the audience
in terms of what, like performance as a DJ?
Sorry, being a let's just say being a DJ. Let's just take producing out of it and just being a DJ. And how good are you out of 10? So like, maybe locally, perhaps people would highly regard me, but like, throw me into a much bigger system like LA or London or Amsterdam or Berlin, and maybe I'm a 3. So there's like, he's always trying to like have things to work on. And that kind of, I think, gives me a little bit of an edge. I'm part of a music academy, which has been amazing. They're based in Miami, and that's the creative side, and they do some marketing and things like that. But he comes at me from like, like I said, the trapdoor angles, and between the two, it's kind of a good mix of trying to progress.
Yes. That's it's very interesting, because all the lessons that you've mentioned there, like the reps, the data driven, all that sort of stuff, I imagine from his perspective, it's just it's success, but in just a different industry. It's the
Correct.
same lessons, it's the same methodical way of getting there. Now I'm interested, Benny, you mentioned about this business idea that you had that you're working through with your business coach. Now we don't have to go into details on the business plan and all that sort of stuff, but I am interested in the conversation that you guys had when you told him that you wanted to pivot and actually really focus on the music producing. And what was that like?
God, I wasn't sure where you're going with that. I'm not prepared to fully disclose the idea. And I will give some context here again, because it just goes to show what he's like. And the idea is around children's fitness and technology. We do not need to go into the issues around global fitness and obesity and all those things. We both live in Hong Kong. It's not a thing here, but almost in everywhere else in the world, it is. Children are spending less time outdoors playing. So came up with a concept, which really is a big idea. And it was compared, or could be compared in some ways, to some at-home fitness things like Peloton, for example. Peloton, at the time of my reading, and we're now 2 years beyond, or almost 2 years beyond, was valued at $25 billion and now the product is developed anyway. But like, somebody has got this big, huge black and red bike in the corner of their apartment with this big screen on it, and it does not look sexy at all. And they managed to build that into a $25 billion business. And you're trying to attack children's fitness, which is a much bigger problem and a much bigger market. And, he's like, you can build $1 billion business here. So I went really far along the idea and met with all sorts of people. And, we were looking to take on $1 million investment, and he was going to come on as a co-founder and partner. But I had this itch to be Benny Cee and music producer and whatnot. And the climb for the tech business that's a 10-year sprint. And I'm not sure I want to try being Benny Cee at, I'm 35 now. I'm not sure I want to start trying to DJ and produce at 45, but I could go the other way around, and we could try be Benny Cee for a year and see what happened. So that's what we did. To answer your question about telling him, I was really, really nervous, and it was occupying a lot of space in my head. We'd done so much work on it. And, he just showed his value as a coach and a mentor, and was like, we didn't start this to build a business. We started this for me to coach you, and that's what I'm going to do. And it just goes on the shelf for now. and the weight lifted because he'd also done a lot of work. It wasn't like it was just one
Mm.
sided. So that was a big moment, and again, just showed his value as and our relationship, and how much he did not even show a single ounce of resentment or frustration or anything like that. And that was like a big moment for me in our relationship. And look, it's who knows if someone will go on and do it. The idea is simply parked. So the plan was to figure out if I wanted to be Benny Cee for a year, and that was April to April in the kind of time had just gone past. And I wasn't even called that before. I didn't have a brand. Through deciding I was going to do it, we built a brand and worked really hard on the look of it. I now have a website and a press kit and a look and a feel, and went on to do really big gigs and kind of grew my profile significantly. And I really had a crack at it. And it was like, yeah, cool. No, I like this and want to do this, and don't regret taking that step. And honestly, I've still really not started because of this, as I said, the business situation.
Yeah, it's a great way for the coach to react, and I'm sure it would have given you immense confidence to have that conversation and then leave that conversation knowing that you've got someone like that in your corner without a moment's hesitation. Now, you mentioned there, Benny, about building a brand and a personal brand and all that sort of stuff. I'm really interested in this part of the journey because, again, I am very uneducated when it comes to music producing, DJing, and that industry. However, I'm very interested to know what that process is like of having. I don't want to say, is it stage name Benny Cee, or like what would you call it?
It's my artist name.
It's your
Stage
artist
name,
name, right?
artist name. Yeah.
So talk us through the process of that whole thing. Like I don't know if you can say it's the personal brand or artist name, whatever it is, but as you said, it is what you're known as now in that industry. You've got your website, you've got your media kit. When you do events, it is Benny Cee headlining, Benny Cee supporting. So talk us through that process. What was it like creatively? How did you come up with it? Who did you work with? What was it like?
Yeah, that would. I didn't know where to start, and there's a lady. There was two of them at the time, Hannah and Camilla, and they are an agency called Illicit Culture. Hannah's moved on, but Camilla still operates Illicit Culture, and they stripped me down, and we did like a 3 or 4 hour session, and they gave me this workbook to work through, and I actually can't remember all of the questions. But I remember one vividly, and it was like, tell me about the worst day of your life. And I was like, holy shit, we're going there. And not that I want to go into that now, but that's where we went on it. And they're like, what matters to you? And there's words like values and what do you care about and who are you and all these things. And then from this workbook, they then took it away, came back at me with words, ideas. I felt like I already knew it. Benny Cee was like my original nickname. That's what I was called in uni. Now it's, CEE. We've made that. But he was like, I was Benny Cee, just the C. And CEE just felt like it's just slightly more catchy than just having the C. And it looks a little bit neater and whatnot. And there's a star in my logo, and that's actually related to the worst day of my life. And I recently got that actually tattooed on my leg next to my dad's tattoo, and that feels nice to have that. So it was really intense, to be honest. It felt like I've actually never done therapy. It felt like therapy, and they got all sorts of stuff out of me, but they stripped me down and they brought this vision, I guess, back to me. And we've been through 2 versions of what Benny Cee looks like, also from a design, color, outfit look point. I think the first time we tried to like fit into a box a little bit of a DJ box, and I don't really fit inside this, like, whilst I do enjoy wearing black, I don't just like wear a black t-shirt, you know what I mean? Like my clothes are flamboyant and I wear stupid sunglasses and I like, I turn into a little bit of a character, but we held that back in the first season, what we called it, of Benny Cee. So there's been through 2 versions, and Camilla's now kind of one of my best friends, and she's added so much color to my life. So a lot of it was them bringing it out of me, which in itself was just, I guess some ways a transformational journey. And I'm really proud of And I think anybody should. If you are creating a brand and you're having an agency or whoever help you do it, like, you should be really proud of it. And if you don't like it, then how can you believe in it? But I really do believe in what they've built and what it looks like.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. Like, it must be, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. It must be very amazing and almost like hard to believe when you see the website and you see everything come together, because it's different to just building a brand, I suppose, because it's you, right? Like, you are Benny Cee. It's not like if you were to build a company which isn't directly associated to your personal brand, it's probably slightly different. But this is, as you mentioned, it's got your personal touches in there. It's got the star. Like, you're very heavily involved in what this looks like. And I guess moving forward now, this is the foundation for you. This is your brand, and something you can really, really get behind, and hopefully the thing that you're going to take all across the world, and the thing that's going to light up festivals and stadiums in the future. So being invested in it at this early stage is incredibly important for you, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting right now is I've got this first record coming out with a co-producer called Matt Brady. His name is, his stage name is Passion, and I've got to create. There's a profile, and music is copywritten, and there are official publishers and writers, and you've got to create like an actual profile. So I'm going through the process of creating my official artist profile for collecting royalties and things like that. And on the form, I can't add. So even my name is Benny *C, but when it's written with a keyboard, I use the asterisk as my star, and I can't add an asterisk on this application form. So I've just emailed them yesterday to be like, hey, how do I bypass this? So to answer your question, I really am super invested in it, but I've just come up with this little roadblock, and I'm like, don't tell me I can't have the actual asterisk. I'm sure I probably can. I don't know. I hope so anyway. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully definitely by the end of October, I'll have my own, official artist Spotify page, and I'll have my first song that people can stream and listen to as a co-producer with Matt. And that's kind of the start of that journey. It's signed to a record label in America, which is cool as well. And we'll see what comes off the back of it. But no, I'm very proud of it and excited by it. I've got them, an overriding itch to just keep going now. I've kind of got the first one on its way.
Fuck yeah, man. That's so cool. It's going to be so sick to get that on my favorites and listen to it. It's not my normal punk rock, but it'll go right next to Green Day, Blink-182, Sum 41.
It's not too offensive. It's really nice house track with an old R&B vocal on it. It's non-offensive, even if you don't like house music. It's definitely on the brighter side.
All right, I'll take your word for it. But looking forward to that one to come out, man. Now, I'm very aware, Benny. Like, when we're talking here, it sounds all incredible and so much opportunity with what the outlook looks like in the future, and traveling around the world, music producing, new label coming out, new record coming out. Sorry, but I'm really interested in where it all began. Now, we didn't start with this in the podcast, but I am aware that you've been in Hong Kong for around 10 years now, is it?
Yeah, I literally just had my 10-year anniversary there.
10 years, that's epic. But it wasn't always this sunshine and rainbows. The outlook is super positive. I want to dig a bit deeper, and I'm wondering if you would be open to sharing a bit about your YouTube and some of the content that not that you've already posted, but some of the videos that you've made by yourself when times weren't as easy, and if you could just give us a sort of fly on the wall moment to those moments in your life.
Sure. I mean, to answer the question, I guess it all actually starts with my dad. My dad was my biggest influence on my life. My dad was my superhero. My dad showed me what hard work is, and I didn't know anything else. My dad had what I only thought was just a normal work ethic, but you soon realize as you get older, you're like, oh, the dad worked his ass off. And I was going to work with my dad from like 12 and 13, and he used to be a wholesale fruit and veg merchant, and had a really successful business until kind of supermarkets came along and people started shopping there. But I was like, 12, 13 and working at 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, And then through the school holidays, I'd work Monday to Saturday, like 5 till 5. And I didn't know any different. And not that my dad made me go with him. I wanted to go because I got to be with him and learn from him. So my dad showed me, what work ethic was like, but also, he spoke about, my dad had me when he was quite old. He spoke about all of, lots of things across his life. But for example, he got to, one thing that stands out was before it was the Six Nations in rugby, it was the Five Nations. And I think it was like 5 years in a row or something. He went to every home and away game because he'd, built his business and, he had enough money to do it. And he had a Mercedes and he kind of was the only one in the village with it. Not that I'm driven, like I said, by money and whatnot, but these are the things my dad told me. And he had like, his name was Keith Cullen, and he had like a private number plate, which was like 509 KC. And he was like, he was the man. And, those things influenced me to do, not just get a job and to kind of, live a hard-working life. And to go back to what you just said there, I moved to Australia to play rugby, came from there to here, and I didn't have anything at all when I landed here in Hong Kong, and I worked for another company, and I felt really upset with myself and where I was. And again, like I said at the start, and like I've said 10 times, I know I was capable, but I needed to do something to change gear. And I was in this job and I was like, I am bigger than this. And there's no disrespect to the job. I'm bigger than this. So I wanted to run my own business, and I'd done little side hustles before, but nothing like an actual business and operation. So we started our company now, which is almost 9 years old, Rugby Tots. And the company I was working for agreed I could do both for 6 months. I would work from Jan to June. I would still receive the salary I was getting from them. Not a big salary, but it was a salary. And I could do this on the weekends. And then I went away for Christmas to come back in the Jan, and they changed their mind and sacked me. But I didn't even have anything. I had nothing anyway. And that 12-month, 11-month ride and drive to get the business off the ground was wild. And I've got screenshots on this YouTube of how much money I don't have, how much debt I am in. And, I'm talking about how I actually don't know what I'm going to eat tomorrow. And it's no exaggeration. I didn't know. There was one night where I had literally nothing, and I was going to get some money the next day. And I ate bananas for dinner because I did not have any money. And I've documented this in this secret YouTube channel because I was too embarrassed at the time to share it. But I also knew that life wouldn't always be like that. And I've still really not shared an awful lot of it, but there's probably 8 quite long form videos on that YouTube channel. And then probably 2 years ago, I started doing them again. I think it's about 2 years ago. I've not done one for a while, actually. But I started documenting privately again about some of my DJ aspirations and goals and where I am right now and things like that. And it's not even to necessarily try and show off one day. It was also just a reminder for me, like I did it for me more than anything. At the time, sorry, there's one other really important part here. At the time, I was consuming a lot of content, self-development, whatever you want to call it, because I didn't have a job really. We just started the business. We didn't really have any classes, so I was consuming a lot of content. Gary Vaynerchuk being absolutely number one. And he had started what was called Daily V at the time. So he was vlogging every day. And he started this movement called Document, Don't Create. So that was significant at the time. So I started documenting my journey. And at the same time, we started documenting our journey as a company for Rugby Tots. And every week we did Rugby Tots TV. And I presented this, pretty average video on YouTube and Facebook every week. To kind of go back to a point I made earlier, when it came to the COVID thing, I felt comfortable on camera because I'd been documenting for 2 or 3 years before that. So yeah, that's some of the private stuff, to be honest. And I'm proud of, and again, it's not about money, but I can show how I had nothing through screenshots and these timestamp videos from 2017. I was 27 with absolutely nothing. And the bank calling me every day being like, you've not paid anything off your credit card. And I'm like, give me a day. I was at a class with my brother because we just got my brother to move over, and I'm like, remember being in the playground, being like, I do not know what to do. HSBC on the phone, like, you need to pay back right now, and I'm like, I have got nothing. I'm like, please give me a few days, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just like using my best Welsh charm to try and hang on a little bit longer, and I got out of that. And then COVID happened, and we started it all again, and I went back into debt again, but this time it was debt through trying to keep everything alive rather than because I'd had nothing and was just trying to live. This time I almost spent the money to get through it, to get back out of it. If you know, the second time round, it was debt because I was trying to do it to keep things moving, whereas the first time was because I didn't have anything and was just trying to survive.
I think you're going to be so happy one day that you've been documenting your journey the whole way through. And I think it's so amazing that you even had the awareness to do that at the time, because it's those sort of stories that I really, really respect. Because it's very easy to look at you now and be like, fuck this guy, you know, traveling all around the world, he's doing this crazy shit, or this guy's crazy, you know, he's thinking way too big. Like, obviously people are always going to shit on you.
I'm used to that.
But it's so cool to know, and for you to see and look back on that those times were real, and that's what's kind of helped make the man today. And so during those low times, Benny, what's is there anything that you learned about yourself during those low times and dragging yourself out of them that you didn't know about yourself before that?
Yeah, and the answer is really simple. It's like, you find out what you're capable of when you have nothing. Like, you know, Hong Kong is an expensive city. I had to fight to pay my rent every single month, and I was doing other little bits of work and doing whatever I could to just get any sort of money. And, you know, I had to say no to going out just for, like, I'm not even talking about like a fancy dinner. I'm just like, I can't come for dinner because I have nothing. And it didn't, it's really hard because your memory is not, I know it's not 100% accurate, but I also, like I said, I knew there was a bigger picture and I knew it wasn't forever. And we built the business to a position where I could then, there's one kind of key part here, which I've not really said, was we started the business, but then I couldn't employ myself because I needed to get a visa. But to get the visa for the business, you need to have local employees, you need to have enough revenue and all these things. So I had to build the business for 11, 12 months before I could get the visa. That's why I didn't have, so I actually wasn't legally allowed to pay myself or technically work. So that's what it was. It was like, you know, the business was moving and whatnot, but I literally couldn't pay myself. It wasn't allowed. And I technically wasn't working. And I guess just, you know, you find out what you're made of when you've got nothing. And then it kind of, you know, we went back a little bit in COVID again, and I definitely had my back against the wall a little bit. And you get creative and you find out what you're made of. And honestly, and I mean this, I'd do that again, and maybe I will do it again. You know, as I try to go all in on Benny Cee, like, I don't care. You can take what money I do have off me. I now have skills and a reputation and a CV, and like, I'll figure it all out again. Like, it's not, and I've because I've done that twice now, and I know that's inside me. So the short answer is, you find out what you're made of when you've got nothing.
Now, I've heard you say multiple times when we've had our coffees together, and you just mentioned it then, back against the wall. And you always mention it to me, back against the wall mentality. And it's something that you've learned in the hard times, but also something that you sometimes miss and you like, because when you're back against the wall, there's only one way to go. So talk to us, share with the listeners, what do you mean when you say back against the wall mentality?
It's like, you know, I guess those two parts actually are kind of referring to, you know, financial situations ultimately as well. And you have no option but to figure something out, and maybe that's where you need to look for trapdoors. And again, my business coach sent me something literally last week about, I don't know where it's from. It's from a book or an article about going all in, and all in is not logical. All in is dangerous. All in is stupid. And all in means all in. And if you go 80% in, you may get 20% back. But if you truly go 100% all in, and your back is against the wall, and you truthfully fight tooth and nail for everything, you get 1,000% back. And, you know, I do believe that. And that's what I mean. It's like, you have no option. Like, I actually just got 2 new tattoos. I got my star from my logo, and then I've got another one which maybe I can send you a picture of, which is maybe we can call it an icon that I've merged together. We've got, this is partly from my relationship with my business coach, and in my office I've got an IKEA cloud, a children's IKEA cloud, and next to it is a Navy SEAL bell. I don't know if I've ever told you about this. Have I ever told you about this or not?
No.
So the bell symbolizes, I don't know how much you know about the Navy SEALs, and they go through Hell Week. And if you quit Hell Week, you have to
ring the bell.
You ring the bell and you put your helmet down. So the bell is the quitting part of it, of the wall, and then the cloud is the dream big. And the two are like in tangent all the time. You know, it's dream big and don't quit. And you could have some days where you're like, you know, your back's, you know, you're feeling it, and other days you feel incredibly inspired. It's a yin and yang between the two. And I essentially just got a tattoo on my leg where it's a cloud and the bell merged together. And it's dream big and don't quit, essentially, is the message of it. So yeah, the back against the wall situation is real.
I love that, man. I love that. And IKEA cloud and a bell. Who knew that they would be such a deadly combo? But
well, sorry, let me just, sorry, I'm going to say one more thing, which is an interesting part of it, is the guy I told you about who introduced me to my business mentor. He left Hong Kong, so I bought him the bell as a joke. Okay, so I bought him the bell off Amazon, and then the bell arrives, and it's just like staring at me in my house for like a week before I was going to see him. And then I was like, I'm not going to give him the bell. The bell's mine. I'm going to keep it because it's like just this daily reminder of don't ring the bell. So that's how I even got it. It was a joke for him. Yeah, it was a joke.
That's how much something resonates with you when you buy something as a gift, as a joke gift. You're staring at you like, fuck yeah, I ain't quitting. I ain't quitting.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, Benny, there's one thing that I want to share as well, because I think it's important for the listeners to know this about you. And we've spoken a lot about what you're working on and all that sort of stuff, but I also think it's important for them to know the positive influence you have on other people as well. And I mentioned it a bit at the start. And everything that I'm doing now in my journey, a lot of it can be boiled down to help from yourself and the coffees that we go on. And you're always a soundboard for myself for when I want to run ideas by people, or I want some genuine, honest feedback. And honestly, sometimes it's to get my tires pumped up a bit and be like, fucking go for it. And that's all right. I need a coffee with Benny. Now, the story that I want to share is when I was at my old company, and I was going through like a bit of a shit time in life subjectively, and I was umming and ahhing. I was like, right, I think I want to quit my job. I've always like wanted to do my own thing and wanted to start my own business, or just not work for a big business and all that sort of stuff. And I was talking about it with my wife, and I was thinking about it so many times, sleepless nights. And then I asked you to go for a coffee, and we sit down in the Starbucks, and you were very nice. And you're all ears for like half an hour. You don't say a word, and then afterwards you're like, right, do you want my genuine advice? Do you want my genuine like friendly advice? I was like, yeah, like give me everything you got. You go, what the fuck are you waiting for, mate? What the fuck are you waiting for? like, don't quit in 6 months' time. Like quit tomorrow. You know, it's so obvious but you only gave me that advice from what I told you. Like, it wasn't, you're not going around the streets telling everyone to quit their fucking jobs and do all this. Like, you listened for half an hour, heard what I was saying, and almost just repeated what was in my head back to me. Like, fucking quit. But it wasn't in the sense of like, just, you know, be irresponsible, do this, do that. You're like, no, this is obviously what you want. You've got the dreams as well. You want to do this. And that's exactly what I needed to hear. And then based off that coffee, that then accelerated my timeline from a 6-month exit plan to a 1-month exit plan. And I think a couple of weeks later, I'd handed my notice in. I'd had the conversation with my wife that night after our coffee, and I said, listen, I'm going to fucking do this. Like, please support me, to my wife, but this is what I need to do. So I wanted to share that story, as well as many other things that you've done for me, mate. The Hyrox stuff, the radio stuff, you were always my way in, and very happy to connect. And I also think it's a bit of, I think, to be honest, people look at you sometimes and they see how intense you are and how energetic you are. And I think always people are keen to shit on other people sometimes, and it really annoys me. But with yourself, I've never had a negative interaction with you, I always come away from you feeling like I'm going to do something great that day. You know, I'm motivated, I'm pumped up. So my question for you, Benny, based off of what I've just said, or maybe not, how would you like to be remembered when all is said and done? Benny Cullen, Benny Cee.
The hardest man working, having the most fun. It's that simple. It's that simple. Be the one working the hardest, having the most fun.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're pretty much there. If that's your goal, if that's how you want to be remembered, like that's how I would nail down my interactions with you, especially when in a Hyrox perspective. But I would add on to that, and it might not be how you want to be remembered, but you know, based off how long I've known you and everything you've done for me, I would say how I remember you is always boosting other people up around you. And it's probably an unintentional consequence of just how you are. But I always feel elevated when I'm around you. And every time I see you, I come home to my wife and I said, I need to see Benny more. I need to have these kind of weekly, bi-weekly coffees in my life because it pumps me up. And I'm sure you do the same for other people as well. So I would add that one in for yourself as well.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
And it must be a Cullen thing as well, because your brother's the same.
It's my dad, bro. It's my dad.
Is it? And then finally, Benny, as you know, the podcast is called Abnormal. It's for normal people who want to do abnormal things. For anyone listening out there wanting to do something abnormal in their lives, what would your one piece of advice to them be?
Like I said earlier, everything you want to do has probably actually already been done, unless you're somebody like Elon Musk. And this is to take from what my business coach's influence on me is like, go find out who's done it, what did they do, and how do you do it, and how do you do it better. Honestly, it's that simple.
Love that, mate. And again, I've probably spoken to a lot of abnormal people on this podcast, but what you're doing is by definition extremely abnormal. So keep running the abnormal race, mate. And super excited to stay up to date with what's going on. Looking forward to the new track coming out. And I've got absolutely no doubt that you are going to be successful in your ventures that you put your mind to. So thanks for coming on, mate. Appreciate the time.
You're very kind. Thank you so much. And honestly, congratulations back to you as well, bro. You're absolutely smashing in it, and you're inspiring me as well. So keep going, my boy.
Appreciate you, my man. Speak to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Abnormal. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to the channel and give us a 5-star review in whatever podcast platform you are listening or watching on right now, as it goes a long way to help growing the show. Thank you, and see you in the next one.